Daniel Fine Cabinetry first project. The project was, let me give you a quick introduction. As you go to these luxury type hotels, you see there is an entrance area. Imagine, we don't have a picture, but imagine this entrance area is much longer and it's supported only by the back wall and the last column, which is here. Here in this photo, you see the column here, perhaps one column here and one column. Between this column and the wall, there is nothing here. So there is nothing to support the ceiling. This is a pretty simple construction, architectural design, but imagine if this area is much longer. And that was a project, in fact. It was an architectural design that this overhead walk area was much longer, was supported by one beam here or two beams, one on each side, and there was nothing in between until attaching the building. And in between was completely free space. So the project was to develop a series of solid wood hanging from the ceiling. So this wood is about 18 feet long, and this solid wood, or looks like a solid wood, have two holes. From this hole, basically, they made a hole in it, and they attach to the ceiling. And from the bottom, same thing. They make a hole and attach to the floor or a street level. And the problem that they had using the solid wood was the weight was too heavy and applied too much stress on the ceiling. And this approach of using the solid wood, which I believe it was 5 pounds per linear foot. So you're talking about 38 series of column, 19 on each side, create a tremendous amount of stress on the ceiling. They had to find a way to develop this design and at the same time reduce the weight. The first impression that they had, they could use, here we go. They were going to use this type of wood, which they find mahogany, the best species of wood, applies for this application because its external use has to withstand extreme temperature, get up from -50 to +50, plus humidity, as well as the sun radiation. So they had to kind of withstand that extreme temperature. Mahogany would basically be the best candidate for this application. The width that they had to use was 2.5 inches, and that's the depth, and the width was 5 inches. So initially they thought rather than having a solid wood, they could have in a wall, basically maybe about 2 inches or 1 inch or half an inch from each side, and cut the center empty, cut it out. Doing that work actually did reduce the weight to the specification they were looking for. However, at the joint, when they made a hole over here, let me go back to the other pictures. I don't have a complete drawing, but this is going to give you the idea. So as it is an empty space, when they create this hole hanging from ceiling or hanging it from ceiling or attaching it to the floor, the problem that I had when it applied 100 kilometers wind was unable to withstand a strong wind. This spot, the joint spot, created cracks, as you can see. It caused cracks, so this was not a good candidate. Second option that they had, so while rather than having the inside empty, that is going to cause it to crack, let's create a series of bracket inside. So it's like here, as we can see, this rib system, they attach the two walls together so they could sufficiently strengthen that. So the test result that they had, they found, yes, that is correct. It's going to sufficiently increase the structural strength of the post or the columns to withstand the extreme wind. However, the problem that they had with this approach was installing every single one of them was extremely time consuming. They could not use nail or a screw or any mechanical fastener because of it would damage the look. They wanted to get a nice, sharp finish on it. So to use a glue to do it was extremely time consuming. So this approach was put away. There was a second approach. The first one, if you recall, was the empty space. The third approach that they had to make it work was, let's go back to the picture. So the third approach that they had was they empty the center. They have about 1/4 of an inch wall thickness from each side, and inside they put 2 layers of foam. And the foam that they were using was an 8-pound density foam. That come later on, they found out that 8 pound was the one giving the answer. And these 2 layers, they could rapidly do it, install it. But one problem they encountered during the assembly process, yes, it did solve the problem, give it sufficient structural support. They didn't get any more cracks on the end when there was a hole on each side from hanging from a ceiling. But the problem that they had, when these 2 layers, I'm not sure if you can see here, when they attach these 2 layers together, they use glue. The glue is so altering the thickness. They had the chemical interaction with the foam, is so altering the thickness of the foam. And it was not a good option. So they finally realized, rather than have 2 slices of foam, which could easily and rapidly install it, they go to only with 1 piece. This is not a final picture. I don't have a final picture, but there's only one piece here. It's about 2 inches thick. That did solve the problem. Also, pay attention at the end when there is a cap, when they put both ends, rather than having a 1/2 inch, which eventually they lost a structural strength, they realized the best approach they could have, change the design. Rather than initially 1/2 inch, which was, increase it to this profile, create a 5 5/8. Here is foam. It allows it to get more surface area for assembly. And the way that, by the way, they assemble it together, the foam or the walls, they use epoxy glue. That was the best approach they could find. As part of their experiment, for 3 full months, they put the assembled piece inside the water to see if it's going to withstand the crack, rain, and the temperature. And they realized that with this final version of it, it just got a very fine, it did, after 3 months of submerging into the water, they realized it does meet the quality specification. They just got very fine hairline cracks. To overcome that one, they apply top coating, finish coating that kind of further improve it. Further detail in terms of specification and numbers, quantification, it is in an attachment file. As always, if you have any questions, let me know.